the hidden strength that transforms chaos into calm. Have you ever stood in the middle of a storm, not the kind outside, but the one raging inside your mind? One moment you're fine, and the next, a single comment, a small inconvenience, or a passing thought sends your emotions spiraling. Your heart races. Your mind loops old fears. Your peace vanishes. In today's hyper-connected, constantly stimulated world, staying calm isn't just difficult, it feels nearly impossible. We're bombarded with noise, conflict, expectations, and uncertainty. It's easy to lose ourselves in the storm. But what if I told you that you already have everything you need to stay calm, not by changing the world around you, but by changing how you relate to it? This isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine. It's about awakening to a deeper strength within you, one that Buddhist wisdom has pointed to for over 2,500 years. It's about discovering how to meet life, not with resistance or fear, but with clarity, compassion, and calm. This article isn't just a breakdown of Buddhist teachings. It's a transformative journey through ancient insights and real-life stories, showing you how to understand the true nature of your mind. Respond rather than react to challenges. Stay grounded in silence and stillness. Let go of control and embrace acceptance. Cultivate patience, presence, and emotional resilience. Along the way, you'll encounter stories of monks, ordinary people, and moments of deep reflection that reveal a simple truth. Peace isn't found when life gets easier, it's found when we become wiser. So take a deep breath. Let's step into the eye of the storm together and rediscover the calm that was always yours. Chapter 1: Understanding the Nature of the Mind and Suffering. The mind is like an ocean, vast, beautiful, but often restless. Waves of thoughts rise and fall without warning. Sometimes they're gentle, like pleasant memories. Other times, they're tsunamis of worry, fear, or regret. Buddhism begins its wisdom journey with a hard but freeing truth: suffering is inevitable. This isn't a pessimistic statement, it's a doorway to liberation. Suffering arises not simply because life is hard, but because we resist reality. We cling to how we wish things were, rather than how they are. The Buddha compared this to being shot with two arrows. The first arrow is the pain life brings, a loss, a disappointment, a harsh word. The second arrow is our reaction to it, the anger, the self-pity, the resentment. We may not be able to avoid the first, but we can choose not to shoot the second. Let me share a story. A friend of mine, Anna, went through a difficult divorce. For months, her mind was consumed by regret and what-ifs. She would say, "I can't believe this happened. I should have seen the signs. I wasted years of my life." Her suffering wasn't just about the marriage ending, it was about her refusal to accept what had already happened. Her mind became a battlefield. Eventually, through meditation and therapy, she began to observe her thoughts rather than get pulled into them. Instead of saying, "I'm a failure," she began to say, "There is a thought of failure arising." That small shift created space. With time, her emotions no longer controlled her, they passed through her like waves on the surface, while she remained rooted in deeper waters. This is the power of awareness, what Buddhism calls mindfulness. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who sees them. As the Buddha said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. When we stop trying to control the outer world and start understanding our inner world, calmness begins to grow. Chapter 2: The Gentle Strength of Non-Attachment. What causes us the most pain is often not the event itself, but our attachment to how we think things should be. We attach ourselves to people, believing they must stay, behave a certain way, or complete our story. We attach to goals, believing we won't be happy until we achieve them. We attach to identities, possessions, beliefs, and control. But life is impermanent. Everything we cling to will eventually change. The Buddha's teaching on non-attachment is not about indifference, it's about freedom. Imagine you're holding a beautiful butterfly in your hand. If you grasp it tightly, you crush its wings. But if you open your palm, it may stay, or it may fly away. Either way, you've given it freedom. And in doing so, you've given yourself peace. There's an old story of a Zen monk who treated his ceramic teacup with great care. A student once asked why. The monk replied, "I treat this cup as if it is already broken. That way, when I drink from it, I cherish it. When it breaks, I do not suffer." This isn't cold-hearted, it's deeply loving. When we accept impermanence, we stop living in fear. We can love someone fully, knowing that love is precious because it is fleeting. We can enjoy success, knowing it is temporary and not tied to our worth. I once met a man who lost his business after the 2008 financial crash. He had tied his entire identity to his company. For months, he spiraled in despair. But eventually, he told me something that stuck with me. "When I lost what I built, I realized I hadn't lost myself. That changed everything." Practicing non-attachment isn't about giving up goals or relationships, it's about holding them gently, with appreciation rather than dependence. This is where true calm arises, from letting go of the need to control what is constantly changing. Chapter 3, Responding with Wisdom, Not Reacting with Emotion. Have you ever said something in the heat of the moment, only to regret it hours later? We've all been there. Someone criticizes us, and we lash back. Traffic gets bad, and we explode with impatience. A partner forgets something important, and suddenly it feels like betrayal. This kind of emotional reactivity is deeply human, but it is also deeply draining. Buddhist wisdom teaches us to respond, not react. A reaction is automatic. It's driven by fear, ego, and past wounds. A response is conscious. It arises from understanding rather than urgency. One of my favorite parables is the story of a monk who was walking through a village when a man began shouting insults at him. The monk paused, bowed, and continued on his way, completely unshaken. Later, a disciple asked, "Master, why didn't you say anything back?" The monk replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you refuse to accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" That's the kind of peace I aspire to, not silence that comes from fear, but silence that comes from clarity. Years ago, I worked in a high-pressure office where a particular coworker constantly belittled my ideas in meetings. My instinct was always to fight back or silently stew in anger. But one day, I paused and really watched what was happening. I realized that his aggression was not about me. It was about his own fear of being irrelevant. So instead of reacting, I asked him a sincere question in front of the team. "That's an interesting take. What would your ideal solution look like?" His posture softened instantly. He was finally seen, and I wasn't dragged into his storm. That's the power of choosing your inner peace over proving a point. It doesn't mean letting people walk all over you, it means choosing the high road so your mind remains free. Anger is like holding a burning coal with the intent to throw it at someone, only you get burned. Buddha. The more we pause, breathe, and reflect, the more we can choose responses that are rooted in wisdom, not woundedness. Chapter 4, The Strength Hidden in Silence and Stillness. In a world that never stops talking, silence is a superpower. We scroll endlessly. We fill awkward moments with noise. We fear stillness because we're afraid of what we might find in it. But here's the paradox: stillness is where truth reveals itself. The Buddha often retreated into forests and caves, not to escape life, but to listen deeply to it. He understood that clarity doesn't come from overthinking. It comes when the mental mud settles. Imagine a glass of water filled with dirt. Shake it constantly, and it remains cloudy. But set it down, and over time, the dirt settles, and the water becomes clear. Our minds are the same. I remember once taking a silent meditation retreat in the mountains. No phone. No books. No talking. Just breath, body, and being. At first, my mind went wild, replaying memories, planning the future, judging everything. But by the third day, something miraculous happened. A space opened within me. I wasn't trying to get somewhere. I was just present. And in that space, I felt a calm I had never known before. We fear silence because it reveals the chaos within. But if we can sit with that chaos, without judging it, it begins to soften. The noise quiets. And something deeper emerges, wisdom. Practicing stillness doesn't mean avoiding responsibilities. It means learning to move from a centered place rather than a scattered one. Even small acts of stillness can change everything. Before responding to a hurtful comment, pause. Before saying yes to something you don't want to, breathe. Before rushing into a decision, sit quietly with it. These moments of silence become anchors in a stormy world. In stillness, truth reveals itself. The Buddha. Stillness is not weakness. It is the soil where inner strength grows. Chapter 5, Acceptance, the Doorway to Peace. We spend much of our lives resisting life. We resist aging. We resist change. We resist loss, failure, uncertainty. Yet ironically, the more we resist, the more we suffer. Buddhism teaches that acceptance is not giving up, it's waking up. A Zen story tells of a man trapped on the roof of his house during a flood. He prays for divine help. A boat arrives, but he refuses it, still waiting for a miracle. Another boat comes. Again, he refuses. Eventually, he drowns. In the afterlife, he complains to the heavens, "Why didn't you save me?" And the answer is, "I sent you 2 boats." This parable is so simple, yet so powerful. It reminds us that often, our suffering isn't because help doesn't come, but because we don't recognize it when it does. Acceptance means seeing clearly what is, and choosing peace anyway. A dear friend of mine lost her mother to cancer. She fought the diagnosis, questioned fate, even became angry at herself for not doing more. Her grief consumed her. But over time, through Buddhist study and journaling, she began to shift her question from "why did this happen to me?" to "how can I honor her life and how I live?" That shift didn't erase her sadness, but it transformed her suffering into compassion. She began volunteering at a hospice, supporting others facing similar loss. What had once broken her became a source of healing for others. Acceptance doesn't mean passivity. It means meeting life as it is, without demanding it be something else. It means dropping the heavy baggage of should have and embracing what is. When we let go of how we think life should be, we find peace in how it is. The Buddha. Acceptance frees up the energy we waste on resistance. And with that energy, we can build, heal, love, and live more deeply. Chapter 6, Letting Go of Control, Learning to Flow with Life. We all crave control. It makes us feel safe. We plan, organize, set goals, and try to shape our lives into something manageable. But here's the hard truth: life doesn't follow our script. And when it doesn't, we panic. Buddhism teaches that the desire to control is rooted in illusion. We think that if we just try hard enough, plan carefully enough, or make the right choices, we can guarantee the outcome. But life isn't a math equation. It's a river, and no matter how hard we try to hold it still, it keeps flowing. There's a well-known story of a farmer whose horse ran away. His neighbors said, "What terrible luck." The farmer replied, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returned with 3 wild horses. "What good luck," they said. "Maybe," he replied. Later, his son broke his leg trying to tame one of the horses. "That's awful." Again, the farmer said, "Maybe." A week later, soldiers came to recruit young men for war, but his son was spared due to the injury. The message? We don't always know what is good or bad in the moment. What seems like misfortune may be preparing us for a deeper gift. I experienced this myself when I was rejected from a job I desperately wanted. I had prepared for months. The interview went well. I was confident. And then, a cold, impersonal rejection email. I was devastated. But that rejection led me to apply for a different opportunity, one that aligned far more with my passions. A year later, I realized, if I had gotten what I wanted, I might have missed what I truly needed. Letting go of control doesn't mean becoming passive. It means trusting the process. It means doing your best, but releasing your grip on the outcome. It's about trading anxiety for surrender and fear for flow. True peace comes when we let go of the illusion of control and learn to flow with life. Buddhist wisdom. When we stop trying to force life into our plan, we begin to experience a deeper intelligence at work. And in that flow, calmness arises. The calm was within you all along. In a world that spins faster by the day, where chaos knocks daily at the door and emotions rise without warning, the greatest victory is not controlling everything outside, it's learning to master what happens within. Throughout this journey, we've explored ancient Buddhist wisdom that echoes across centuries, not as abstract philosophy, but as living truth. That suffering is part of the human condition, but it doesn't have to rule us. That letting go of control, of attachment, of rigid expectations, leads to liberation. That silence is not emptiness, but a mirror reflecting who we really are. That stillness in the storm is possible, not by avoiding pain, but by embracing presence. That peace is not found in the future or in perfection, but in this very moment, if we dare to truly be here. And learning to respond, not react. To observe, not absorb. To forgive, not fester. We open the door to something the world cannot give or take, inner freedom. Let me leave you with a thought. Imagine if, for just one day, you practiced seeing your thoughts without becoming them. Imagine if, for just one moment, you met discomfort with breath instead of resistance. Imagine if, every time you were triggered, you paused, not to suppress, but to see clearly. That's where calm lives, not on the mountaintop, not in a quiet room, but right here, in the way you meet your next moment. You don't need to be a monk to walk this path. You only need to begin. And each moment gives you that chance, again and again. You are not the storm. You are the sky it passes through. Stay calm. Stay conscious. And above all, stay connected to the peace that was never missing, only forgotten.